I'm Tori, and today I'm going to show you some beautiful vintage books that I recently purchased. And filming with me today, I have Peppy, who is supervising and making sure that I'm telling you properly about these books. So a few towns over from mine, they have an annual event called the Mile Long Yard Sale, and so it takes place along their main residential street with all these beautiful old houses that have been there as long as the town has existed, and this was the first year I got to go. It was amazing. Almost every single house was doing a yard sale. I assume people who didn't want to participate rented their yards out to people who did, and it was so much fun to just walk along from one yard sale to the next. And my favorite house was one that belonged to a woman who collects vintage books, and I got some beautiful things. This is a children's story called The Magic Toy Book, and it doesn't have a copyright date in it, so it's a little hard to guess at its age. I love these darling cover illustrations, and you can see the moon here is kind of beveled in and textured, so it is like an indentation in the book, and you can see the little cat peeking around it. And then inside the front cover, you can see they have a little picture of Little Red Riding Hood in there in this separate little piece of paper. And the pages are very old, and some of them are falling out, but it has these beautiful, beautiful little illustrations. Some of them are in color, some of them are in black and white, and it is just a darling little children's book. Next, I have The Skating Gander, written by Alice Cooper Bailey and illustrated by Marie-Henri Myers. This book has a copyright date of 1927, and it is a little children's chapter book. I love the cover with them all going skating, and their little goose is even wearing its own skates. It just looks darling. It takes place in Amsterdam, and I love these beautiful illustrations on the inside covers. And then it has a lot more text than the last one. It has an actual table of contents, and it's mostly writing, but it does have little illustrations sprinkled throughout, and a few larger ones. And this just looks like such a charming little story. The next book I have is Earl Wayne's Nobility by Mrs. Georgie Sheldon. So this is a novel that was published in 1880, and this edition has a copyright date of 1908. And I love this beautiful cover with that gorgeous dress on it. And somebody pressed leaves in this book. So I'm very careful as I flip through the pages because there's all these beautiful little leaves saved inside. And this is not a children's book, it's a full novel, so that should be very interesting to read. Then I have this beautiful book. The best I can make out, it is called Gunnar Gunnarsson Varg One Boing. So I cannot read this book. It was published in Denmark. So I'm guessing that means it's Danish or Swedish. I should look up what language they speak in Denmark. And the only thing that's in English is the copyright dedication. It was published in 1916. And so I will not be reading this book, but I got it just because it's so beautiful. I love this gorgeous green gilded cover with this design on it. And the cover is actually like a soft leather, so it's very flexible and malleable. And then these inside pages are this beautiful textured dyed paper that's just gorgeous. And I just think that this is such a beautiful, well-crafted book. And now I have the Victory binding of the American Women's Cookbook Wartime Edition. It was edited by Ruth Berolzheimer, and the copyright date is 1943. So I absolutely love old cookbooks. I especially love baking out of them. I won't bake out of a cookbook that's newer than like the early 1970s. I feel like older cookbooks were so good at taking the same basic ingredients, flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, eggs, and making them into things that had such variety and tasted so different from each other. And more modern cookbooks tend to just be like, we're going to add some cherry flavoring on top to make it different. And so I love baking from old books like this. It has all these different little tabs here that lets you flip to the different sections. And then the inside covers have beautiful photos of food. And then this book has a note from a person who received it as a gift. Dear Yvonne, you said you'd like something for your hope chest. I had one of these given to me before I was married, and I carry it with me wherever I go. It's that indispensable. I hope you'll use yours as much as I do and like it as well. Merry Christmas. So I love finding books with inscriptions like that. It's so much fun to see who used it before I did and where they got it and when. We know that Yvonne got this for a Christmas present, and it looks like a wonderful book. I hope she enjoyed it, and I'm very glad that I get to use it now. The next book I have is a children's story collection called In Winkaway Land by Eugene Field. And it has a copyright date in Roman numerals that end XXX, so I'm guessing 1930, but I will double check that. And the cover of this book isn't too remarkable. I'm guessing that maybe it had a dust jacket that went away, but it still has this nice little illustration here. And then inside it has children's stories in nice big fonts, so I assume it's expecting the children to be able to read them. And then it has beautiful little sketches throughout, just illustrating those different stories. And I do know that the book is at least as old as 1943 because somebody got it for Christmas 1943. It says, "To the Warner children, Christmas 1943." And clearly those children or some other children loved it very much. They did some sketching practice in it on a couple of different blank pages. And this just seems like a very fun little children's story collection. And then I have a little children's chapter book called Winkle, Twinkle, and Lollipop by Nina Wilcox Putnam and Norman Jacobson. And I just love the cover illustrations. It's just so beautiful, those little children frolicking. Its copyright date is 1924, and it has just such beautiful little illustrations. The inside covers are bright and vibrant, and then the whole story is illustrated throughout. And this is just such a beautiful little book that looks like it tells a magical story. This next book is the most expensive one I got, but I just had to have it. It is absolutely stunning. It is Geschichte by Ferdinand Freiligroth. And I'm not entirely certain how to read old German letters. This looks like a D, but I know the word Geschichte means stories. So it could say Geschichte just in an older font, or it could be a completely different word that I'm misreading. But this book was published in 1896 in Stuttgart, and it is so beautiful. It's this gorgeous red with gold gilding everywhere, and these beautiful shimmery inside covers. And I believe it's a collection of stories because it has a table of contents with different headings. And because it's by one person, either he wrote all of them or maybe he compiled them like the Brothers Grimm, I'm not sure. But this is a beautiful book. It is magnificent just to look at, and I am slowly attempting to learn German, so theoretically someday I might even be able to read some of these stories. Then I have two more children's story collections. This one is called The Road in Storyland, the Star Edition. I assume it has multiple different authors. And it's a big, almost coffee table sized book with beautiful illustrations. It was published in 1932, and it is very well used. You can see it's been taped here, and then some of the pages are damaged, so I won't ever be able to read this page that's been ripped. But it has just such beautiful little illustrations to go with the different fairy tales, and I just thought it was so charming and delightful. And to go with that, I have Tales from Storyland, edited by Watty Piper. And somebody received this book as a present in Christmas 1943. And I love this illustration on the front cover. Her dress looks kind of Revolutionary War era, and it's just so beautiful. And this book has a very similar illustration style to the other one. I love how vivid these little stories are. So those are all of the books I bought, but I found a few other things as well. I thought this pin was absolutely beautiful, and I cannot tell how old it is. I'm not great at dating jewelry, but it definitely seems vintage to me. And I love the gold and the pearls. That's one of my favorite motifs in jewelry, and I just thought it was beautiful. And I could definitely wear it with like 1930s or 1940s outfits. And I might even be able to get away with wearing it with older, like, Victorian era things. I don't usually worry too much about dressing completely accurately. I just like putting things together that look pretty. And then I got this beautiful faux pearl necklace as well. It's kind of chained together with gold. And then I love the clasp is very intricate and makes me think that it's a bit older too. And then I think it looks very nice with the pin, and I might wear them together sometimes. And then I also got this beautiful vintage handbag. It's a gorgeous satin material that you can tell is very high quality. And I haven't seen one like this before, with this beautiful little handle so you can kind of hold it and it will hang down at your sides. It has this gorgeous little crest kind of carved on it, and then this is like a spring-loaded clasp that you lift, and the whole thing opens out. We have two little pockets on the inside, and it still has the tag. It is from Ingenber trademark, made in the USA. And then I had a great conversation with the woman who sold it to me. It belonged to her grandmother, and I guess her grandmother lived in Poland and had to run away after she slapped a police officer who tried to steal eggs from her farm. But anyway, when she got to the United States, she had kind of a hard time, and so it was very rare that she bought herself nice things like this. And I'm assuming her grandmother had lots of nice things, otherwise she wouldn't have been selling this at a yard sale, but I still thought it was so beautiful, and I cannot wait to wear it with some of my vintage outfits. I feel like it will go very well, not quite with this hat, because this hat's more of a brown than a black, but with other little vintage pieces I have, I feel like it will be very fun to wear for an evening out on the town. And then I also managed to find this beautiful vintage chair, which I love the color of this upholstery, and it does need to be redone. It has holes in several spots, so I will probably do that, but I'll try to find something very similar because I just love this color. So that is everything that I bought at the mile-long yard sale. I had so much fun. I love going shopping to things like that where it's a scavenger hunt and you find beautiful things that people don't want anymore and you can take home and treasure, and they just have such wonderful history to them. And I will definitely look forward to wearing the jewelry and using the handbag. And then I cannot wait to start reading all of these beautiful books.